Let's go back to the low ulimit piece first. Now, the nice thing with these warnings, this is an improvement quite recently in MMS. We now flag you to the relevant piece of documentation when there is actually a warning. So for this low ulimit warning, you can click on that link and you will get to this page, which I've already brought up. This will explain ulimit settings in general on Unix type systems, so it applies to Linux, Mac OS, and various different flavors have different ways of controlling and implementing ulimits. The most common way to view the ulimit on a particular host is ulimit-a. That will print out a series of information, as you can see here, show you the number of files, number of processes, file descriptors, etc. This one here, -n, file descriptors, this is the one that's going to cause the alarms that we're seeing in MMS, this being set too low, essentially. By default, on most Linux distributions, you'll see that the number of file descriptors will be set to 1024. Which is considered too low to run a MongoDB instance, at least anything in production that's going to see significant amounts of traffic. So that's why we have the low ulimit warning. To make this a little bit easier to get, because this is for a particular user, running ulimit-a just prints it out for the particular user. If you're not running as the MongoDB user or the user that you use to run MongoDB, this is less useful. Right? So if you're running as root or as your own personal user on a host, this will just give you the ulimits for that user. So that's not terribly useful. What you really need to know is what are the ulimits for a particular process. And to do that, we need to explore the proc file system. Now, the proc file system and its intricacies are beyond the scope of this course. However, one of the things that we will do here is just show you this very handy little return limit script. This will take an argument of MongoD or MongoS, assuming that you haven't changed the names of your binaries. And what it will do is it will find any processes called MongoD or MongoS on a particular host, and then check the limits. And those limits for a given process are contained in the proc file system under proc process ID /limits. We're going to show you all this for one of the hosts that we're going to fix, so you can actually see why this is setting off an alarm, etc. I think we have a sample output just a little bit further down the page. Here we go. A couple of examples of how to actually run it. So you can run it for the MongoD, the MongoS, the MongoD and the MongoS. And here's the kind of output that you can expect to actually get. Again, the most common one that you're going to actually run into problems with is this one here, max open files. 1024 is the soft limit with the hard limit 4096. What does that mean? Well, it means that by default your limit is 1024. As that particular user, that particular process, you can increase that up to 4096. Now actually going up to 4096 will be enough to stop the alarm. So in this particular case you could, as the user, just increase the open files limit, restart the process yourself, and everything will be fine. In other cases you're going to need root level access to actually make substantive changes to this open files setting. In addition to describing how to figure out what your ulimits are, we just have a couple of general recommendations here. So the open files, we just recommend setting it to 64,000. You probably never get anywhere near that. In fact, there is a hard-coded limit in MongoD and MongoS at 20,000, so you will never get this for a single process. So unless you're running multiple MongoD or MongoS processes, you'll never get this. This essentially takes this out of the equation entirely. And then we have some recommendations for process and threads, much less often hit in terms of actual limits. Let's do a quiz based on that lecture. What does the low ulimit warning actually mean? Is it the max number of users is too low? The resources available to MongoDB may be too limited? Your number of MongoDB connections available are unlimited? You are too limited in your thinking? Or MongoDB will not limit its expected resources to the amount available on the server?